The following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
We are back. Canna Chat in the Zone. I'm Ralph Tyko, and I have a very, very special guest. She is known as Mama Bear in the East Bay Canna community. Her name is Melodye Montgomery, and I'm thrilled to have you on this airways. Nice to talk
Thanks.
to you, Melodye.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
happy to be here.
We're both in Alameda, and it is raining today, a long overdue rain. And we're both indoors in our separate abodes, glad that we don't have to be outside.
That's true. I am so happy I don't have to today.
All right. Melodye, I would like to introduce you as one of the most influential people in the East Bay Canna community. And you have an offshoot of that group that has welcomed seniors into the cannabis community. You have a monthly meeting. You want to tell us about that and tell us how you educate seniors who are somewhat new to legalized marijuana, or as they say, cannabis, weed, whatever, in California.
Sure. I'd love to talk about the senior group. Especially I love the name because we came about this name ourselves as a group vote, the East Bay Senior Cannabis Social Club. And yeah, it's a mouthful, but it pretty much fits what we are. As you know, I go to a lot of the younger places, the sessions, the local private events. And as I'm out there, they're really loud, and the music is pretty new school, and the music is, lights are flashing, and probably not a place for all senior citizens to feel comfortable getting their first look at cannabis and what that's like. So I really wanted to create a space. I teach and educate seniors in groups about how to use cannabis for health. And so when this opportunity came about, Sarah Setti from Green Rush introduced me to Laura, and we had our first meeting, decided, we wanted to do the East Bay Cannabis group for seniors. And so we meet on a monthly basis. Right now we're meeting at EVB Gallery in Oakland, and it's a really lovely spot that's been donated to us by Daniel Stein. We have an indoor-outdoor spot. We meet for about 3 hours every month. During that 3-hour time, we socialize. There's a lot of smoking of cannabis. There's a lot of educating just internally, one peer-to-peer education. But then I do invite a special guest every month to come and talk about their product and how they think it would be good for seniors. When that person is through speaking, I kind of cruise around the meeting for the next hour or so, just listening to what the main topic of the day is and who needs what the questions are. And from that, I developed my own little spiel that I do after that. What do we want to educate on today? That's kind of a fluid thing, and it fits the way that the group is feeling. Sometimes I talk about what cannabis is, what the different strains are, and how they can affect you. Sometimes I talk about how to cook your own edibles, topicals versus ingesting. We do a dab class. I just try to bring out as much education and start them slowly on some things that they're not aware of and bring them up to speed.
Well, most of our audience is new to cannabis in one way or the other. And I would like you to be so kind as to give us a little tutorial of the terms vape, dab. These are things, old school smokers would get up, they'd light it, they'd roll a joint, they'd smoke it, they'd pass it around, and they'd get a little buzz. Medical stuff never came into it, consumption in any other way. The only edible was at the end of at the end of the joint. Sometimes you'd eat the roach.
You eat the roach or save the roaches to make brownies.
Right. Yeah, it was so crude. There was a book out when I was first starting in this wake and bake endeavor that I've kept going for 40-some-odd years. It was called The Child's Garden of Grass. I don't know if you remember that one, Melody.
I do not.
Okay, it was a paperback, and it had recipes of cooking and a little bit of growing. It was before the days of even separating the male plant from the female plant. So that's how far back it goes. But it was a whimsical book, and it was written for folks who would appreciate what marijuana does to the mind. The medical stuff aside, Melody, you've smoked for a while, even before legalization. I understand you like myself were scofflaw.
Yeah, we are OGs.
Yes, and as far back as we go, I have never gotten the same answer from anybody who I've asked this question to. Informally, formally, what does marijuana do for your head?
I think that's a real personal question. Not that I'm not going to answer you, but I mean, what I mean by that is it's personal to each person. For me, I kind of wake up in the morning, and I have a lot of energy anyways. I smoke marijuana, smoke cannabis to calm myself down so I can think about a whole thought and complete one whole project. It's also wonderful for social anxiety. I don't know if you read in the article, but I was raised. I'm half black and half white. I was raised in a completely 100% white community. A lot of anxiety there growing up, just not being one of, kind of always being a little bit separate, a little bit different. It's helped me deal with that throughout the years. It's also a happy place for me. I'm not gonna lie and say that it's just medicinal and it's only this or it's only that. I enjoy the high. I do not drink alcohol whatsoever, not a single drop. Cannabis provides me a very relaxing buzz that I don't wake up tomorrow with a hangover. I don't wake up with a headache. My stomach is fine. I can continue to eat. Cannabis is what I use rather than using in that sense for my happy moment. That's what I use to stay in the pocket and to stay in my zone and to keep the smile on my face.
Okay. Now, for those out there who just simply don't smoke, can't smoke, can't inhale, refuse to, or against it in principle, the new phase since legalization has been really the outgrowth of edibles and lotions, topicals, and what have you. Give us that tutorial that I'm asking for that will kind of bring us up to date as to what's available other than just the smoke part. What's available out there for consumption?
I kind of want to touch just a little bit on the different strains before we want to go into the edibles, because it's so important that people know about the effects of cannabis. Out there, when you're going to a dispensary, when you're going to an adult use shop for the first time, you're going to look at a menu board, and there's going to be different strains. You're going to see sativas, hybrids, and indicas. And I want people to be very aware of the different effects of those three. In general, for most people, sativas are very uplifting and they provide an energetic boost. If you have things to do, if you have to get some work done, you're gonna stay toward the sativa side. Hybrids are very much a middle of the indica and the sativa. They're different strains mixed together to give you a mid-range effect. And indicas are a very relaxing, pain-relieving strain that you're going to smoke in the evenings. You're going to use that in the evenings to relax, to watch a movie, to go to sleep, or in the afternoons if you need to get some rest and take a nap. So having said that, you're also going to see topicals and edibles, all different varieties of them. You're going to see sodas and brownies and cookies and capsules that are cannabis extracts mixed with like coconut oil or different kinds of carrier oils, safflower or sunflower oil, put into these little capsules that you just swallow. The main thing about edibles that I need beginners to understand is you don't feel it right away. Sometimes it can take up to 2 full hours for that effect, the full effect of what you ate, to kick in.
Right.
So it's very important that when you take your first bite, you don't go for half an hour and they say, look, that didn't work, and then eat some more. I really don't want people to have too much cannabis in their first experiences. So you eat something and then you wait an hour to an hour and a half. Then if you don't feel it the way you wanted to, you can eat some more or wait till the next day and eat more than you did the last time. Slow and low. So we don't have any of those horror stories about eating a whole cookie or brownie and hallucinating and being very paranoid. Also remember when it's your first time or even for us that are experienced, if you get too much cannabis in you, there can be some effects. If it's too much sativa, you can be very wired and almost paranoid. If it's too much indica, you're just going to want to take a nap. Remember that all effects of cannabis wear off in a short time. So don't panic. Don't be afraid. Just try to ride that out. Drink lots of water. Take a nap if you can. When you wake up, you'll feel better.
Nap is fine for the indica. How would someone who was a little paranoid because of the effects of it and a little out of control, and I say that, how out of control have you ever seen anybody on marijuana? People are not going to be violent. They're not going to cause problems. They're not going to rob anybody. But out of control is just not feeling the way you want to feel. What would you do to counteract those symptoms? Would you just...
Well, there's some things that you can do. There's not a lot about it. If you have an indica that's really heavy, you can go smoke a sativa to bring you back up. You can use the cannabis to balance out each other if that needs to be. There's also a strain out there. They're high in the cannabinoid CBD. CBD is a part of the cannabis plant, and these specific CBD strains, when you smoke them or ingest them, they're very good for pain relief and getting rid of that anxiety. You can also do some house things.
Marijuana with a high grade of CDC and a high grade of THC, which is the intoxicating part of weed.
Yes.
You can. It isn't an either or.
It isn't an either or. You can find, like Marley Natural gave the seniors some flower last month that was very high in CBD. It was about 10, I think, or 12% CBD, and only down around 1 or 2% THC. So smoking a strain like that is going to relieve your pain. It's going to help bring you down if you are too anxious, and just mellow that high out. There's some really good tinctures out there that you can get that work way faster than an edible.
Now,
that
would
I
you
carry
explain what
around.
a tincture is for those who are ignorant, like I was when before I learned about tinctures? What is that?
Well, tinctures are an edible product that are typically made with an oil or a glycerin, where you extract the cannabinoids, the THC, the CBD, the terpenes, all of the good medicine parts of the cannabis plant, and you kind of toss away the plant material, and you're left with this concentrated medicine that you mix with other things so that it comes in a liquid form. So you can just take it by the dropper full, a couple drops under your tongue. It's sublingual, so it gets into your system quicker. It doesn't have to go through your kidneys, your liver, the whole digestive process for you to feel it. And there's some really nice products out there that are
about dabs and vaping. I would like to ask if there was one book in particular for novices, anything that you might recommend, or I would say read the article that you're in, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But what one book might help people if they want to get a good education?
You know, I'm not so sure that there's one book. You can go down to like the Patient ID Center in Oakland, where they have a full library of cannabis books. They're also connected to Oaksterdam, so they're an educational spot. I'm looking at my library, and I have in here some old school things like Beyond Buds by Ed Rosenthal. I have his new book that's called New Rules, California's Law Explained. I have some things, Green Gold and the Tree Life, that kind of goes over marijuana and the religious part, spiritual part, back from way back in the day. I also have a book called Hashish. I have one that is Marijuana Garden Saver. I think whatever you read, there's articles, you can go online. I'm not sure if there's one book, but there's a lot of resources out there.
Okay, Melodye, since, and this is the 8th of January as we record this, marijuana basically has been legal in California for just 7 days. And already the Attorney General, Sessions, is throwing the fear of God into some people who can be fearful. Let's just put it that way. How do you react to his, on behalf of the feds, his scare tactics, rhetoric? What is that about? And should we be concerned about putting our names on lists, dealing with dispensaries who record our names, all of this? What's going on?
You know, it is an exciting and yet very scary time. And because you mentioned the word legal, right off the top, I want to remind everybody that although it is legal for adult use in California as a state law, it is not legal for federal use. And if we in Californians or people that come to California to smoke some weed go to federal land, you can still get arrested by the feds for smoking weed on their land. We have a community member that's just recently been arrested for having marijuana on federal lands. So legal is for California, but be careful where you are, because if you're on federal lands, it's still not legal. And I had to say that really quick because that's bothering me a lot with people walking around saying it's legal, it's legal, it's legal. Be aware. Although it's legal, there's still a lot of things you can't do. And I'm sorry about having lost the question.
Could you tell me how you think this will play out between the government and the state of California?
I think that will play out like it always has in the past. California is big and we're bold and we make our own rules, boo. And I think we're going to keep doing that. When I was at the East Bay Canna, we were at First Friday. There's an expression, and you know it's bad language, but it begins with S and then it ends with K and says sessions. So we, as a group, are prepared to unite and activate and fight back. I personally don't think that the feds have enough time or money to come after all of us in California. There's a lot of us. But we do have to keep our eyes open and be aware because some spots are still being raided.
Okay. Are you happy with Proposition 64?
I am so not happy with Proposition 64, but it's what we have, and I think that we have to work really hard to keep making the changes that we see necessary in Prop 64. We can't just stand around and talk about how ugly it is and how wrong it is. For me personally, I'm watching a lot of friends close their delivery businesses because you can't have a delivery unless it's storefront connected now. That's a shame. I think the law is not written for people that don't have deep pockets to make a way for them to get into the cannabis business. Some of the things that they've taken out have extremely affected small shops, mom and pop shops, the cottage industry within the cannabis business. That's very sad to me to see some people that have been activists, have been makers and shakers in this industry now not be able to run their business, have to close their doors on the 1st because they cannot get into the storefront.
Right. Is there anything you particularly like about Proposition 64?
Well, I do like that there's adult use and that not everybody has to go get a rep. You can just say, I want to go drink a beer. You could say, I want to go buy a joint. I think that's a marvelous, wonderful thing.
That in itself, to old folk smokers, when you think about it and how far we have come, it took too long.
You're right.
I know you'll agree. No,
I agree. And that's why the lines were out the door, wrapped around the parking lots and down onto the sidewalk at specific adult use shops when they opened up on January 1st, because the people knew it's been taking way too long and they've been anxiously awaiting that moment.
I'm just, we have an expression in Yiddish, it's called kvelling, which is no literal translation, but you have this inner feeling of bragging, of feeling good, of just spreading good news. And it really is good news when you stop to think about it. All told, it's had setbacks. It's been difficult. It will be continually be difficult. But there was a time when one could literally go to federal prison for smoking marijuana.
Yeah, for having very little cannabis on you. A joint or two would put you in prison. So I'm very happy about that. I'm very happy about that, particularly for people of color who now do not have as much worry about being picked up, frisked down, shut down, and thrown in jail over a plant.
Right.
But there's a lot of work to be done. So I want us all to be happy. I want us all to rejoice in what we've done and how far we've come. And I want us all to keep our ears or noses or whatever that old expression is. Keep working. Keep our noses to the grindstone. We have work to do. If you don't know what to do and how to move forward, come see us at East Bay Canna on First Friday. Reach out to me on Facebook. Reach out to any of our admins. Follow the group. There's always activist things there. There's a rally on Friday in San Francisco that a lot of our folks are going to.
Right.
Become a part of our community, become a part of the activism, work hard, and we'll be able to get this law tweaked a little bit and fitting more like what we wanted it to look like in the beginning.
All right. Melodye, I don't know if you know about podcast radio. It's selfless self-promotion. So first I want you to tell the audience about an article in, I think it was Dope Magazine.
Dope Magazine, yes, sir. I'm so excited about that.
Tell us how
it just came out.
You came to meet with them and what the article was based on.
Sure. Actually, the folks from Dope Magazine hang in our circle. They come to a lot of East Bay Canna events and other cannabis events. So I've met them a while back, and we've been trying to get together and do this article. And then they got their new writer Taisha, and she just really, really wanted to do the article on me after having me welcome her into East Bay Canna and show her around. She introduced her to people. She said kind of what you said at the beginning, that she felt like I was part of the heart of the community and wanted to take that forward. And Dope Magazine was kind enough to say, yes, let's do that. And ta-da. So Keisha called me, and
this current edition, am I correct?
Yes, it just came out in hard copy either yesterday or today. I am looking at Facebook right now, and my friend Katie from Magnolia is holding a hard copy in her hand with my picture in that, and I'm kind of excited and trying not to get all big-headed about it, Ralph.
Yeah, well, that's hard to do because you should have a big head about this. How could people get in touch with you about your business? You have a canna business going, and
I have a couple business
on getting the word out there.
I have two canna businesses. One is where I do teach and I educate people. If I talk to patients, if I work with cancer patients, I work with elder patients with arthritis, I work with recovering patients from surgery. I teach them about how to use cannabis in a way that's best for their health, physical and mental. That's my one business. It's called Learn What's Right for You.
Okay.
My second business, I've developed a topical product that's doing really well here locally, and I'm hoping to, get it out there a little farther in this upcoming year. It's an oil-free infused aloe vera gel that's called TendaHead. I originally created it for, I'm telling you, being really honest, by the name and by who I am, for people of color, people that have braids and locks. Having all those processes done to your head can cause inflammation and stinging and pain, and then as your scalp heals, there's a lot of itching, and I really wanted to do a product to stop that for us, based on something that happened to me one night when my head was just itching like crazy and I didn't know how to fix it. So I got in my kitchen and started creating something that would stop that. At the end of the process, as I'm coming to the right formula, I'm putting this and rubbing this into my scalp, and I really discovered that my thumbs stopped hurting and I have arthritis in my hands, and that eased back, and I was very surprised. So I tried it on my elbows, where I had two surgeries surgery on each elbow, and that took the inflammation out of that. I tried it on my knee and on my sciatica, and now it's pretty much my favorite topical that I have. You can use it from your scalp to your toes for skin issues. It's wonderful, had wonderful results reporting from patients that have psoriasis and eczema. It's wonderful for dab burns, and we didn't really talk about those different definitions, but
please let's not forget that.
Yeah.
Dabs and vapes. What's that about?
So dabs and vapes. Vaporizers are a way of using cannabis in a concentrated form that usually comes in like a vape pen that looks similar to an e-cigarette. It is way more concentrated than smoking cannabis flower itself, but it's also way more portable and more discreet. It doesn't come with the same smell of cannabis that when you light a joint. So you can tuck them in your purse, tuck them in your pocket, and pretty much medicate wherever you are without people knowing that you're smoking cannabis.
Dollar for dollar, do you get the same bang for the buck?
I personally think you do. I just think that concentrates, dabs, the pin kind of highs don't last as long as the same buzz or high that you get when you smoke cannabis.
Okay. Now, I personally
think it's way more powerful and the effect comes on way stronger, but
you don't feel it going in. There isn't that same sensation of getting a hit. And that, it's mental, but that can confuse the brain a little bit. You're used to responding to the hot air or whatever it is. Is this just me, or have you had other people tell you that?
No, that's quite common. The high is different when you vaporize, whether you're using whether you're using a pin or whether you're using a device like a volcano where you're vaporizing your flower into another device that then you take a hit off of. The high is a little bit different, and it does take some time to get used to that different feel on the inhale. You're not going to cough. It doesn't burn. It doesn't sting. There's a lot of different things that happen. So you might want to tend to overdo because you're not feeling it the same way. So once again, caution, slow and low.
Okay. Any side effects from the vape that you don't get from the traditional way of ingestion?
I wouldn't think so. Not that I've noticed. I mean, I want people to be very careful of the vape pens that they buy, and make sure that there's no fillers or cutters or added flavors to those vape pens, because those are not good for you to be ingesting. They say natural food flavorings. Those are things that you're supposed to put in your food to eat. I'm not convinced that it's okay to smoke those or vaporize those.
Okay.
So look for pins that are the oil.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, look for things that are pins that are just the oil. They do not have MCT. They don't have any other kind of cutters, no added flavorings or fillings in that vape pen. Try to get the cleanest product that you can, and you'll be safest that way.
Beautiful. I want to ask you about dabs before I ask you to let us all know how folks can get in touch with you. Dabs.
Okay, dabs.
Yeah.
Dabs are very concentrated. It is concentrated cannabis. It's all the medicine with none of the plant material. So you use a hot device that we call a nail or a banger, and there's electric ones that just you heat up with electricity that have a little metal coil on them, and they get hot on their own, and you set the temperature. Or there's ones that you'll see people actually heating with a torch that kind of looks like a welding torch, which can be a little fearful, a little frightful to look at the first time. But most people that are holding those torches know what they're doing, so stay back and just take a look. But a dab is where you take a little tiny piece of a concentrate, which is why it's called a dab, and you put it on this hot nail that through a device similar to a bong or a pipe. And then you take a big rip, a hit off of it. Way more concentrated than flour. I can compare it to you like this.
Like vape, it doesn't last this long, am I correct?
This is true. It can hit you harder at first, bam, because it's very concentrated. but in my opinion, and a lot of my friends' opinion, the high, the buzz does not last as long.
Okay, maybe better if you're going to drive, because it comes and goes. I would highly recommend never getting in the car with your party, whatever you're partying on. Leave your party at home. But I also want to say that since legalization, we've been getting a lot of scares about the effects of marijuana on driving. There is a terrific effect on marijuana when you're driving if you combine it with other things like alcohol or speed.
Oh, yes.
Whatever drugs, there is an effect. But you know what? I have to say, I've been... I can't say I recommend it, but if you're out there and it's just marijuana, you know what? You're going to tend to be more cautious. You're going to tend to slow down a little bit, and I contend you'll be a better driver, less aggressive. If you have time, if you don't need to be there in a split second, I contend you'd be a better driver. This is just me not recommending it for anybody, but please do not mix high-powered marijuana with any of the other intoxicants.
I agree. I agree. There's actually a study that our friend, I think you know Eden, one of our friends from East Bay, Canada, he was in a study that the state did not too long ago about the effects of cannabis on your driving. And they were really trying to prove that cannabis makes it so that you cannot drive. Okay, you're a bad driver just like if you get drunk and drive, you're a bad driver. The study came out the exact opposite. That people that got high and were driving like you said, slower, more cautiously, paying more attention to the road signs, just doing things in a more present manner.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that was so funny. They tried so hard to prove something, and they came up by proving pretty much the opposite. Like you said, I don't suggest that you get high and drive, but I do think that it's a safer thing than driving on even Vicodin and prescription drugs that your doctor gives you, where people drop a Vicodin and get in their car and drive to work. And I'm not okay with that. I'm really not okay with that. So caution, yes. Safety, yes. And always know your limits. Always know your limits. Just like with anything else you do, know your limits.
Okay, you're so bright and so receptive to these questions. So let me ask you one more thing. Combining big business in any industry, bringing it, the insurance industry, real estate, big business isn't generally good for an industry, and the cannabis industry is now faced with, there are 2 or 3 really dominant folks, owners of clubs, this, that, and the other thing. How do you react to that? Big business and a bong. I don't think it mixes very well.
Well,
what do you say to
in
that?
General, no. In our specific area, I think that we have a few people that are what you would say big business, cannabis owners now that didn't start that way, but they remember where they came from. So I don't have anything against big business in the cannabis, as long as you were here to start with us and you did the work and you grew yourself into a big business. I really get afraid of what I'm going to call green wagoners, and they just want to jump on the green bandwagon, the cannabis bandwagon of California, and come out here and make some money. Those people,
some of the folks in Northern California, in the East Bay Area, who those folks that you're referring to are, so that we can avoid them?
I'd rather not do that, because I tend to focus on the people that we want to contact with.
Right. Well,
as opposed to the ones that
answer it that way. Who are some of the big folks in the industry that you are happy to deal with?
I'm happy to deal with people like Debbie Goldsberry, who's been big in our industry as an activist for many, many years, who's a grassroots starter of things, who now is, a big part of Magnolia, which is a large, large dispensary here in Oakland. I'm happy to deal with Debbie. I feel like I can go to Debbie and ask her whatever I need to ask her, and she's going to answer me honestly and give me the answers to help me get what I'm trying to get, not answers that try to keep me down, but answers that try to help us rise. So look for people that are part of a community. Rather than me saying any more names, look to be a part of a community. And the people that rise in that community and the people that are respected in that community are usually the people that you can trust.
Beautiful. And you being one, I would like you to tell the folks how to get in touch for your two businesses that you told us about.
Okay, well, you can find me as myself, just Melodye, on Facebook, Melodye Montgomery. You can also find my product, TendaHead, on Facebook. It has its own page, TendaHead, TendaHead. And I have an Instagram presence. TendaHead420 is out there. Through these mediums, I will broadcast when I'm going to be at different events, different pop-ups, different sessions. Plus, my products are carried locally in a few dispensaries. You can buy TendaHead at Magnolia, on the shelf at Magnolia. You can buy it at a few different Measure Z clubs, which I can tell you about privately because Measure Zs are not allowed to market or advertise, so I don't want to get them in trouble by saying it over the radio. But you can.
Would you explain what Measure Z is, please?
Measure Z is an ordinance in Oakland that pretty much states that cannabis is the least problem on their list of things to fix or deal with, and it allows private ownership of cannabis clubs that are not specifically that aren't licensed as a dispensary or as an adult use. They are private ownership clubs where you typically don't have to have a recommendation before it was legal in California for adult use. You had to have a medical recommendation to go into any dispensary to buy cannabis.
Right.
Measure Z made it so that you didn't have...
Let's define that, too. That was a very, very lax thing. Some states, to get medical marijuana, you've got to be very, very sick, very hurting in a lot of ways and be able to prove it.
Very progressive. California is very progressive.
What floating anxiety.
Yes, California is very progressive on what makes the list because the writing of 215 and the people that were connected with that were very much concerned and knowledgeable that cannabis is medicine for so many other things, not just cancer. I have a big issue with a lot of the states that are touting that they're medical cannabis states. They're medical cannabis states, but they're not, because you only can get it if you have cancer. You can only get it if you have a deathly disease, a mortal disease. California knows that there are lots of illnesses out there that cannabis is good for, ranging from mental anxieties and illnesses to physical, and they deliberately created the law in a lax way so that you could pretty much decide as a person whether you thought it was going to be good for you and then talk to your doctor about it like that.
And if you could play the game, it basically meant that for the last 10 years, cannabis has been legal.
Yes. The difference now and the difference between Measure Z clubs is that you just didn't have to go through the plane of the game. You could walk in as an adult over 21 with your ID and buy cannabis, as well as a lot of the Measure Z clubs also have lounges, smoking lounges, where you can actually smoke on site or dab on site, which is different
from private
from
clubs. So you become a member of the club, and you've got all the privileges of being able to do what you say they do.
Yeah, and typically Measure Z clubs have a membership.
Yeah.
The membership fee from $5. I've seen a $20 Measure a month fee, but that gets you a place to medicate safely. If you can't do it in your apartments, if you because the law states we can't medicate in any buildings that have attaching walls. So no condos. Even if you own your condo, you're not allowed to smoke cannabis in your condo because you have attached walls to somebody else. So Measure Z clubs provide a nice for adults to go smoke weed and not have to break the rules or laws or risk eviction in their homes that they pay good freaking rent for.
Right, and when you say good rent, you pay, if you live in Northern California, you pay extraordinary rent, not just good. And the housing shortage is such that if you were evicted for any reason, not just marijuana, that stays on your record for 7 years. You're going to have a hell of a hard time finding a place.
Finding another spot, yes. One of the things I hope to see change over the next few years is the general public's idea that cannabis smells bad, that it stinks. It was one of the things that just got to me so bad, Ralph, about our whole Alameda cannabis movement that we're doing here, was they wanted to write that into the ordinance, that the smell of cannabis is, what did they say? I can't even remember the word right now. Offensive.
Right. Well,
and I was like, no, I don't find it offensive.
I'm not all that offended.
Yeah, I'm not offended by the smell. I asked the group, are you offended?
By the smell of cigarettes, secondhand cigarettes, that not only
much
smells bad, but it has an ill effect on you. But marijuana is a beautiful thing.
Yeah, so I would really, people in the past, I mean, that's part of the reefer madness, where people smell weed, they think that's bad people doing bad things. And I really like to see that change, where the smell of weed does not make bad people doing bad things. When people walk by a bar, they don't go, ooh, there's bad people in there doing bad things. One of the most things I would like to see change is that the general public does just not be so offensive by the smell of something that does not hurt them at all.
Right. How could it be that there was not one recreational outlet for marijuana in Alameda, the little city we live in, which is right over the moat from Oakland? And how could the powers that be have come to that decision after 68% of the residents in Alameda, up from 58% in statewide, voted for legalization? How could it I don't know how that could be. I don't think, I think that we had a huge victory, but I don't think that they did a lot of listening to us. I think that they had their own agenda going, and listening to what we wanted was not high on their list. If they had listened, we would have more than 2 dispensaries. We would have more than 1 nursery. We didn't get any cultivation here on the island. There's a lot of things that didn't happen, and I think that's part of reefer madness. That's part of the scare that's going on. And Alameda being in general kind of conservative, that their movement. Slow and low. They're going to try to start slow and low just like everything else. Right. Well, let me ask you this. Be specific. who are the powers that be in city government in Alameda that greased the way for we getting what we got, and who are the ones that held us back from getting what we really wanted?
Well, I think, yeah, Trish Spencer is on our side. She worked hard to see this pass. I know that she had to give up on some things that she really wanted just in order to get us the basic start. I'm not sure who else is really on our side as cannabis users and cannabis ingesters. There's a lot of, I saw as we were going to the council meetings, I saw still a lot of that old school reefer madness, a lot of fear, which is evident in the laws that they set up around distances away from schools for different businesses. They thought somehow to have a manufacturing plant closer to a school than it was to have a dispensary. And that just everything to me. So they're more afraid of the children smelling cannabis than they are of an actual manufacturing plant blowing up, which can happen.
Right.
So that was kind of crazy to me. Wait. You're going to let a manufacturing plant get within 600 feet of the kids, but you're not going to let a dispensary or a grow or a nursery close to the kids, because the plant in itself is lethal? It was a little weird,
Ralph. They have a bar close to it because they have a grandfather clause for the bar.
Yeah, it was a little weird. I think that personally, I wasn't happy with all of the research that was done by the company that the city hired.
Right.
Yeah, they came up with some things that I just looked at them and went, huh? Why would you do that? That doesn't make sense to me. But like I said,
all in the face of legality. That's the thing. They legalized it. Give us a break. How about that?
Yeah, they that's Alameda. You know, Alameda used to be called the place where weed ordinances go to die.
Right.
I think that we got a living one and we got it passed, and now, much like 64, we got to keep our noses to the grindstone and keep working to make changes, to make it better, to make the thing that we want. Let's keep pushing for adult use. It's not over just because we voted once and they said no. Let's keep going. And I think that we can bring this to public vote. There's more things that we can do if that wants to be one of the top things on our list. One of my top things on the list.
Rich Moskowitz, who's my friend and has been a guest on the show, mentioned that, getting a reform going to let the people vote on it. They could supersede what the council says.
Yes, I know Rich. Rich is my friend, too. I think Rich introduced us to each other.
Yes, he did. And I don't...
So, yeah, I think that there's things that we...
I don't know if you're all too... That thrilled, Melody. You're not doing handstands.
I am excited that,
right.
you know, that it's here. But just like 64, we have to keep working and make it right. There's more work to do. For me personally, one of the worst things that happened in the passing of the cannabis regulation and ordinance here in Alameda is that they added cannabis to the tobacco law. So now it states that
you can't smoke it on the street now.
Well, you can't even smoke it in your apartment. They added it to that part. And so now you have patients, literally medical marijuana patients, that have a recommendation to legally have this medicine, but you've created a law that says it's illegal to smoke it in your place of residence unless you own your home. That feels like it's an equity issue to me. It feels like it's a have against the have-nots issue, because the haves that have houses and own separate units don't have to worry about that at all. It's only us that are still in renting situations, or people that, it's really bad for people that are living in like Section 8 housing that's federal funded, because they can not only screw up their thing, but they can screw up their other kinds of income that they have coming as well.
Very antiquated city that we live in on many different levels.
Yeah, so that's one of my big ones is no, cannabis should not have been added to the no smoking ordinance. One is a poison, one is a medicine. Even if you say cannabis is recreational, it's still not a poison. And there's no way that you can say the same thing for tobacco. It's a poison. It's straight out a poison. And
I got to tell you, alcohol is a poison also.
I agree. And to equate that weed with tobacco really upset me that they wanted to just add it. So now the non-smoking ordinance reads that any place where it says you're not allowed to smoke tobacco, it also says tobacco and marijuana. They just kind of threw it in and added it to the ordinance, which was kind of sloppy and lazy to me, because we all know that they're not the same.
Who threw that in, Melody? Which council person?
I can't really remember, but they all agreed upon it. There was not one dissension on that one. They all agreed that that's how it should be.
Okay, so everybody take a deep breath and remember these people on Election Day.
Yeah.
Remember our friends.
Exactly.
Remember Trish. Support Trish. Trish has a great future. Trish is going up in the state of California.
I would like to see her go forward and do all kinds of good things. It's been absolutely amazing working with her on changing the current ordinance and opening some eyes and watching how she shows up, watching how she talks to people, how she treats people. It's been a really nice process for me.
Nice. Hey, Melody, this has been a nice process for me. Thank you very, very much for your time, and I hope you'll come back and update us on how you're doing and how the fight is going.
I'd love to. So reach out, find the senior group on Facebook. I didn't say that. East Bay Senior Canna is where you can find us on Facebook, and I post up all the events, the time of the events, the places, where we're going to be, what you need to bring, what you don't need to bring. So, yeah, join our group, East Bay Canna and East Bay Senior Canna on Facebook.
Well, I've been a member of both groups, and I highly recommend, if you're an older person, just come and socialize, meet some folks, and just enjoy the company of folks like Melody.
Thank you. I'm really proud of the senior community. I like the camaraderie, the ongoing, like I said, the peer-to-peer education is crazy, because we have the group is kind of split between newcomers and people that are new to cannabis, and then we have some mid-runners, and then we have some OGs like you and me who've been doing this for a minute, Ralph.
Absolutely.
So the one-to-one
Christ was a corporal
thing is amazing, where people just sit down and can ask anybody anything, and you'll get a good answer.
And an honest answer, and people who make eye contact with each other. You don't.
Oh yeah.
Very often, that's how you know you're in a community that means something. People that don't just give you lip service, that want to know how you're feeling and what your reservations are. It's wonderful.
Yeah, and lots of hugs. Lots of hugs going on there.
A lot of hugs. Isn't it nice that this goes back to the reason we looked for folks that smoked in the first place, way back then? Special breed of folk.
Yes. People that don't have anything to do with violence and raging. We just want to smoke a joint and chill, enjoy each other's.
That's it. That's all it's about. That's pretty, and it doesn't hurt anybody. It's not like we're doing this to take advantage of somebody. We'll be happy while they're not happy. Marijuana people want everybody happy. They want to pass it around. And
wouldn't it be great if we could just get Trump over here to sit down in East Bay, Canada, and smoke a joint with us?
Well, I worry about the munchies all being gone. But it would be nice. It would be nice.
I think we could change some minds.
We'll do this again, and I can't wait for the next social event. When is that? When is the next senior social event?
Not this coming Friday, but the Friday after that is the East Bay. No calendar by me. Third Friday of every month is the senior group, so that's coming up not this week, but the following week.
Beautiful. Thank you again. Those of you out there listening, if you've enjoyed or learned from any of this or any of our other offerings on the station, on the network, please box up some lightly used children's books and take them by the Head Start program in the community near you, the community you live in. Books are always needed for kids. Teach them a passion, teach them to be school ready, and get them off the devices. Let them read a little bit like in the old days. Do that. It'll make me happy. And I'm Ralph Tyko. It's Canna Chat in the zone. Adios, everybody. Thanks again, Melodye.
Thanks, Ralph. Talk to you soon.
Be well.